Ash was his wife in name, but he never truly saw her as one. The woman he loved, in the end, was always someone else. After taking over all of her family's fortune, he cast her aside like trash, only to bring that woman into the house and force her to take care of her. People might expect that woman to be like one of those vicious other women characters Mrs. Thompson always writes about, right? But no, she treated her with kindness, so much so that even if she wanted to hate, she couldn't. Every time she saw him tenderly caring for and loving the other woman, her heart ached with jealousy. She felt like nothing more than an outsider in her own home. Many times she wanted to leave, to give them the private space they clearly craved. But she couldn't. Life was cruel. Just recently, she had received the results from the hospital. She had late-stage leukemia, beyond saving. Watching him across the table, constantly placing food on the other woman's plate, she couldn't help but feel a sting of sorrow. Suddenly, something warm trickled from her nose and dropped into her bowl, staining the rice red. She hurriedly excused herself and ran to the bathroom. Her nosebleeds were becoming more frequent, a sign of her worsening condition. Staring into the mirror, she barely recognized herself anymore. Where was the radiant, lively face she once had? Now all she saw was a pale, haggard reflection she despised. While she was lost in thought, the other woman rushed in, concern written all over her face. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine. Just a regular nosebleed." "All right then, come back and eat." "I'm full. I'll go upstairs first." She quickly turned away and climbed the stairs. Why was that woman so kind to her? It only made her feel worse. Her health weakened by the day, and she had to wear heavy makeup to cover up her sickly complexion. Today, it was time for her routine checkup at the hospital. "I advise you to be admitted for treatment," the doctor said. "It won't cure me anyway. I don't want to spend what's left of my life in a hospital." "Doctor, how much time do I have left?" "At most, 10 days. The doctor's words cut into her like a sharp blade. 10 days. She only had 10 days left to live. She gave a faint smile, bid the doctor goodbye, and walked out. By the time she returned home, it was already 7 p.m. From the doorway, she could hear laughter echoing through the living room. There she was, resting her head on his lap, while he gently fed her fruit, one piece at a time. The scene looked so blissfully happy. But why did her heart hurt so much? She said nothing and quietly went upstairs. That night, unable to sleep, she went up to the rooftop for some fresh air, only to find him already there. "You're not asleep?" she asked softly. "It's late." "What are you doing up here?" His voice was cold. "I couldn't sleep, so I came up for some air." "Go shower, then we'll eat." Though exhausted, she obeyed, quietly slipping into the bathroom. A while later, she emerged, dressed in a soft pink bunny pajama set, complete with little ears on the hood. Her cheeks were flushed from the heat of the shower, her fresh face so tender it almost begged to be pinched. He couldn't deny it, this side of her was unexpectedly captivating. Clearing his throat with an awkward cough, he quickly stepped out of the room. Flustered, she hurried after him. After dinner, the two of them went for a walk along the beach. "If one day I disappear, would you be sad?" She tilted her head, her eyes full of longing as she looked at him. He didn't even glance her way, answering coldly, "No." Her whole body stiffened, disappointment weighing down her chest. "But you promised, you'd at least pretend to love me a little," she whispered. They both fell silent, walking without another word until they returned to the hotel. Day 3. She had heard that in Los Angeles's Koreatown there were countless street foods to try, so first thing in the morning she dragged him out to explore. "That looks delicious." "Buy it for me," she pointed at a food stall selling spicy rice cakes. "Eat it back at the hotel." "Food here isn't sanitary," he frowned, clearly against it. "You're worried about me, aren't you?" she teased, her bright smile lighting up her pale face. He turned away, a little flustered. "Who'd be worried about you? If your stomach hurts, that's on you." Still, He walked over to the stall she had pointed at, bought a huge box of spicy rice cakes, and handed it to her before striding off. She pouted, watching him walk away. He can't even pretend to care for me a little? Huffing, she trailed after him, making him stop to buy this and that. By now, her stomach was already far too full to take another bite. She rubbed her bloated belly, grinning in satisfaction. At the sight of her silly little gesture, the corner of his mouth twitched upward against his will. Suddenly, something warm trickled from her nose. By reflex, she swiped it with her finger, stained red instantly. Quickly, she turned her face away, pulling a tissue from her bag to wipe the blood. "What are you doing?" His voice startled her. She shoved the bloodied tissue deep into her pocket, then turned back with an exaggerated grin. "Nothing. Let's keep walking." Grabbing his hand, she pulled him forward, humming a tune under her breath as if nothing had happened. "TCH, shame we didn't get to see the cherry blossoms," she pouted. Without thinking, he blurted, "When the cherry blossoms bloom, I'll take you to see them." Her face lit up instantly, the regret in her eyes replaced by joy. "Really? You mean it?" "Yeah." She spun around in circles, laughing so hard her cheeks hurt. He shook his head, unable to suppress his own smile. "Just this, and she's that happy?" He didn't know that behind that radiant smile hid a grief she could never put into words. Could she really last long enough to see the cherry blossoms bloom? After wandering around a bit more, they returned to the hotel. This time, she pulled him up to the rooftop, pressing a warm cup of coffee she had just made into his hand. "The stars are so bright tonight," she said softly, gazing up at the sky. "Hey, if one day I disappear, would you be sad?" "Don't you already know the answer?" he replied flatly. Right. I forgot." She let out a faint laugh, trying to brush it off. "It's late. Go get some sleep." A single tear slipped down her cheek, but she quickly wiped it away before following him back inside. Day 4. The next morning, as the two of them were about to go out for breakfast, his phone rang. She instinctively glanced at the phone screen. The caller's name flashed, and her heart tightened painfully. She quickly turned her head away as if she hadn't seen it. "I need to take this call," he said. She nodded softly. When he hung up, his expression had shifted, worry etched across his face. "Is something wrong?" she asked. "I might need to fly back to the States for 2 days." "Why? What happened?" "She's sick. I have to go check on her." "Oh. I see. Then go." She forced the most natural smile she could manage. He turned back to the room, hastily packed a few changes of clothes, and headed for the door. "Be careful on the road." "Yeah." With that, he left without another glance. Her eyes reddened, and she could no longer hold back the tears. She broke down, sobbing. Just one phone call saying she's sick, and he's this worried? When I told him I was sick, would he ever be this concerned? She laughed bitterly to herself. Of course not. To him, I'm nothing. If anything, he probably wishes I'd just die sooner. Suddenly, a wave of dizziness swept over her. Her body lost all strength, and she collapsed to the ground. Blood poured from her nose, and her vision went dark. When she woke, it was already past midnight. Her entire body felt drained of energy. Looking outside into the night sky, she realized in shock, she had been unconscious for hours. With all her remaining strength, she pushed herself up from the floor, dragging her frail body step by step back to her room. Another day had slipped by in silence. Day 5. After a sleepless night, her eyes were ringed dark like a panda's. Exhausted, she dragged herself into the bathroom. Splashing water onto her face, she froze, watching crimson red streak down with the water. Staring into the mirror, she realized she was bleeding again. She rinsed it away, but soon enough, more blood followed. Numb, she simply watched it drip steadily into the sink. She touched her hollow, gaunt face. Can I even make it to day 10? Day 6. Knowing he was supposed to return today, she had asked the hotel staff early in the morning to prepare all his favorite dishes. By the time everything was ready, it was already 7 a.m. Then she hurried down to the hotel lobby to wait for him. Hours passed. She sat slumped in one of the chairs, weak and drained. Why isn't he back yet? From the airport to the hotel is only half an hour. She hesitated, debating whether to call him. Finally, she couldn't resist. She dialed his number. The line rang and rang, but no one picked up. She tried again, and again. Still nothing. She called until her phone battery finally died. Not once did he answer. By the time she lifted her head, the sky outside had already gone completely dark. His familiar figure had still not appeared. Disappointment crushing her chest, she rose to return to her room. But before she could take another step, her vision blacked out once more. When she regained consciousness, she was already lying in her room. A hotel staff member was seated beside her. "You're awake. Do you feel unwell anywhere?" I'm fine. Thank you. But, why am I here? I remember fainting in the hotel lobby. We asked someone to bring you back here, the hotel staff explained gently. Oh, she nodded faintly, as if she finally understood. Can I ask you something? The young staff member hesitated. Yes, go ahead. You have leukemia, don't you? The girl's voice trembled. Her face stiffened, frozen in shock. After a long pause, she finally whispered, yes. Did he say anything about my condition? The doctor said it's getting worse. It can't be cured anymore. I understand. You can go now. I can manage on my own. All right, then I'll leave. As the door closed, the room felt like a block of ice. She tried to stand, to fetch a glass of water, but her body had no strength left to move. A glance at the clock showed it was almost midnight, another day was ending, reminding her she had only 3 days left. The second hand clicked to 12. A new day began. You broke your promise, didn't you? She murmured. Day 7. She had been awake for hours but still lay motionless in bed. Her body had no energy left. She was so tired, too tired. Though she had just woken, her eyelids felt impossibly heavy. She tried to force herself to stay alert, but eventually, her eyes closed again. It wasn't until late afternoon that she stirred. Reaching weakly for her phone on the nightstand, she unlocked it and saw the time. 5 o'clock already, she gasped. How could she have slept so long? Her stomach growled painfully. She rubbed her flat belly, realizing she hadn't eaten anything since yesterday. Picking up the phone again, she called room service for some food. But when it arrived, no matter how hungry she was, she could only manage a few bites. Day 8. Day 9. She spent those days standing in the hotel lobby, waiting for him. No matter how cold the winter wind cut against her skin, she refused to leave. She waited, and waited, until the freezing air finally overtook her, and she collapsed. Just before losing consciousness, she thought she saw a familiar figure, the one she had been longing for all along. I finally waited for you. When she opened her eyes again, it was already 7 p.m. The first thing she saw was his face, handsome, cold, staring right at her. Am I dreaming? She whispered. She rubbed her eyes, then pinched her thigh hard. The sharp pain told her it was real. But before she could rejoice, his cold words struck her down. Why didn't you tell me? Tell you, what? I don't understand. Why didn't you tell me you were sick? His sudden shout made her flinch. You already know? Her face turned as white as paper, lips trembling, trying to form words that wouldn't come. Say something. He grabbed her shoulders, shaking her hard. His roar made her whole body shrink in fear. It's just a small illness, she stammered. Leukemia. Late stage. And you call that small? He wanted to crack her skull open, to see what on earth she was thinking. how could she be so foolish? After hearing from the doctor that she had late-stage leukemia, fear had clawed its way into his chest. He didn't understand why he felt this way, why his heart was tangled in such knots. "You're worried about me," she whispered, her pale lips curving into the faintest, weakest smile. "Who would worry about you?" he scoffed, letting go of her shoulders and turning away. Is she better now?" At that, his expression darkened for a moment, but quickly returned to its usual coldness. "She's fine." "That's good." The room fell into a suffocating silence. She couldn't stand the heaviness in the air, so she forced herself to break it. "Tomorrow makes 10 days already." She paused, then added softly, "We lost 4 days, so tomorrow, you'd better take me out, all right?" She smiled sweetly at him. Looking at her thin, frail face, his chest tightened with an unfamiliar ache. He remembered how he had always treated her with indifference before, making her shoulder everything in silence. Yet she had never once complained, her lips had always carried that innocent smile. Without thinking, he reached out and gently patted her head. "All right," he said with a firm nod. She beamed, throwing her arms around him, nestling her small head against his chest like a kitten. Fearing he might get angry, she quickly tried to pull away, but instead of pushing her off, he wrapped his arms around her tightly. She froze in surprise, but when she realized he was holding her of his own will, her heart overflowed with joy. "But you must promise me one thing," he said, loosening his hold and looking at her seriously. "What is it?" "When we return to the States, you must accept treatment without resistance." Her smile faltered. Her chest clenched in pain at his words. "Can't you ask for something else?" "No. If you refuse, I'll fly back right now." He stood, as if ready to leave. Panicked, she grabbed the edge of his shirt. "All right. I promise." Satisfied, he smiled faintly, reaching out to ruffle her hair again. "Good. Now get some sleep." With that, he turned and walked out. Her nose stung, her eyes filled with tears as she watched his figure fade behind the closing door. "I'm sorry," she choked out in a whisper. Day 10. She had planned to wake up early to prepare something special, but exhaustion kept her under until 7 a.m. When she opened her eyes, he was already sitting neatly dressed at her bedside. "Why didn't you wake me up?" she asked softly. She tried to rise, but her body gave out, collapsing back onto the bed like a broken doll. "Let me help you," he murmured, carefully lifting her frail body into his arms and carrying her into the bathroom. Every step he took was cautious, as if he feared she might break. "It's fine. I can do it myself. Please, step outside." "You're sure you don't need me?" he asked, searching her eyes. "I'm not that fragile," she answered with a faint smile, her gaze lingering on him. "All right, I'll wait outside. If you need anything, call me," he said before turning and walking out. She braced herself against the sink, splashing cold water on her face to stay awake. Her body was utterly drained, and she feared she might not have the strength to go out with him today. With her thin, frail figure, it felt like even a breeze could carry her away. She had been holding on this long just to stretch her time beside him, even if only a little longer. "God, please, just give me today." She slipped into a simple white dress, her hair falling loose down her back. At that moment, she looked more fragile than ever. When she stepped out, moving toward him softly, she whispered, "I'm ready." He turned, and his eyes widened instantly. Though she wore nothing extravagant, the dress gave her an aura of purity he couldn't look away from. "Shall we go?" she asked, breaking his daze. Yeah, let's go." He cleared his throat, quickly recovering, and without thinking, reached out to take her hand as they headed out. Feeling the warmth of his palm enclosing hers, her heart ached. That hand hadn't belonged to her for a long time. She thought she'd never feel its warmth again. Yet here she was, on the edge of leaving this world, holding it one last time. That alone was enough. Strength surged through her frail body. Gripping his hand tightly, she walked beside him with renewed spirit. First, they had breakfast at a traditional restaurant, then strolled leisurely around the neighborhood. "The weather's beautiful today," she said, inhaling the crisp, fresh air deeply. What's that over there?" She pointed toward a crowd gathering not far away. Curious, they went closer. He pulled aside a man who was trying to squeeze through the crowd and asked in halting Korean, "What's going on?" "Oh, it's the annual Thread of Fate festival," the man explained. "Once a year. They say if two people are lucky enough to catch the red string, they'll be bound together forever." "Excuse me." And the man hurried back into the crowd. She understood perfectly, since she had studied some Korean before. An idea sparked in her mind. "Let's try it," she said eagerly. "Nonsense. Just a scam." He tugged her hand, trying to lead her away. But she stood stubbornly in place, refusing to move. "If it were her, you'd agree, wouldn't you?" He frowned, confused. "What are you talking about?" She gave a bitter smile. "You only love her, don't you?" Silence fell between them. She forced herself forward, her steps unsteady. "Let's go over there." But she had barely taken a few steps when he suddenly pulled her back. "Let's play." Before she could react, he had already led her into the crowd, pushing their way inside. She glanced at him with a faint smile, just as a hoarse old voice drifted through the crowd. "Young lady." She froze, pointing at herself. "Me?" "Yes, you." "What is it?" "You and this man, are you husband and wife?" the old man asked, pointing at him. Her eyes widened in surprise. How did you know?" "Could you both hold out your left hands?" the old man requested. She turned to look at him. He gave a slight nod and extended his hand. She followed suit, placing her own hand beside his. The old man pressed their hands together. "Hold on tight to this girl. The time you two have together is running out. The bond between you is about to be severed," he sighed, shaking his head. His words left his face as cold as ever, but inside, something trembled. Her face, already pale, drained of all color. "Scammer," his voice turned low, dark, without warmth. The old man chuckled. "I only told you because fate brought you to me. Better to hear it now than to regret it later when it's too late." He stroked his long white beard, then pulled two red strings from his pocket. He tied one around her wrist, one around his. "May you find happiness together in the next life, never to be parted. And this is the key of love. Take it to Namsan Tower and lock it there." The old man placed a padlock and key into his hand. "What does it mean?" she asked softly. "It means the two of you will be bound together forever." Before either of them could respond, the old man had vanished into the sea of people. She stood there, dazed and confused, when suddenly he tugged her along, pulling her out of the crowd. "Where are we going?" she asked breathlessly. "Namsan Tower." Her heart skipped wildly. Could it be? Does he want us to be locked together forever? The thought alone made her chest pound. At the tower, they fastened the padlock onto the railing. She placed the small key into his palm. "You must keep this safe." "Why don't you keep it?" "Because I'm afraid I'll lose it." "All right, then I'll keep it." He slipped the key into his pocket. They spent the rest of the day wandering, eating everything she pointed at, buying little trinkets and gifts. It felt like a dream, one last beautiful memory etched into her heart. "Hey, can we go in there?" She tugged his sleeve, pointing at a photo studio. "What for?" "To take pictures, of course." Before he could answer, she had already pulled him inside. The photographer, a middle-aged man, looked up. "A couple shoot?" "Yes, please." "Make it beautiful," she said brightly. "All right, follow me." He led them into a large studio filled with equipment. "Now, strike some intimate poses." Click after click captured them together. "Finished. Wait here a moment while I print them." The man was about to step out when she called after him. "Wait, take one of me alone." She sat on the sofa chair, looked straight into the lens, and smiled as brightly as she could. Click. Please enlarge that one, she added softly. When the photos came back half an hour later, he frowned. Why did you want a separate picture? And enlarged, too? She only smirked playfully. Can't tell you. Acting mysterious, she skipped ahead of him, hiding the redness in her eyes. Back at the hotel, after showering, she invited him up to the rooftop. The stars are so beautiful tonight, she whispered, gazing upward. She wanted to play among them, to feel free just once more. Only 3 hours remained before the 10 days were over. His chest felt unbearably tight. Only 3 hours remained, then the 10 days would be over, and they would return to being strangers. So why did he feel so unwilling to let her go? She sat down on a swing and patted the empty spot beside her. Come sit here. He walked over and sat down. She wrapped her arms around his, resting her head gently on his shoulder. The first time I met you, she whispered, I was drawn in by your smile. When you confessed to me, I thought I was dreaming. Then we got married. I imagined such a beautiful future for us. But when you brought her home, saying she was the one you loved, that moment crushed me. Her voice trembled. I should have hated you. But I couldn't. Because I love you, so much that I lost myself completely. Her face was already streaked with tears. Remembering it all tore her heart open anew. And hearing her words, his chest ached as well. He realized, perhaps too late, how cold and careless he had been. If I leave, will you be sad? She asked again. For the third time. Once, he would have answered with a sharp no, but now, he couldn't force the word out. You must be happy, she murmured. In the next life, you have to love me fully, without holding back. I'm so tired. I just want to sleep. A long, long sleep. Before he could answer, he felt her arm slip from his. I'm sorry, for breaking my promise. Her words faded. Her hand fell limp. Her breathing slowed, then stopped. He froze, paralyzed, unable to move. Minutes passed before he turned to look at her. Her bright, innocent eyes, now closed forever. No, no, your hand is so cold. Why are you sleeping here like this? Wake up. He shook her gently, then harder, but she gave no response. Panicked, he carried her back to their room and called the hotel doctor. Within 10 minutes, a young physician arrived. He checked her pulse, then let out a heavy sigh. Her heartbeat has stopped. The last shred of hope inside him shattered. Everyone, leave us, he ordered hoarsely. Alone, he stepped closer and took her cold hand into his own. I don't accept your apology, he whispered. Wake up. Go back home and get treatment. If you wake up now, I won't make you divorce me anymore. Next spring, I'll take you to see the cherry blossoms. Just wake up. His voice trailed off, breaking. His eyes, already bloodshot, brimmed with tears. He turned, and his gaze fell upon the photograph she had taken that afternoon. Enlarged, smiling so brightly. He laughed bitterly, realization sinking in. So that's why she insisted on a separate photo. She knew. She knew she didn't have long, and wanted to leave behind her memorial picture. The next day, he flew back to the United States. He arranged her funeral with meticulous care. For days, he neither ate nor slept. Stubble covered his jaw, his eyes sunken, his hair a mess. He looked utterly broken. She, the woman he had loved all along, came to pay her respects. Seeing him like this, she felt a pang of sorrow. She placed a hand gently on his shoulder. Everything will be all right. Tomorrow, I'll be flying back to America with him. Please, take care of yourself. She turned and left. But perhaps you're wondering, why? Because the day she claimed to be sick, it was a lie. She had only wanted him to return to the States so she could tell him the truth, she had never truly loved him. The reason she accepted his confession was because she needed money to pay for her mother's treatment. The man she loved was someone else. When he found out, he didn't even feel heartbreak, only betrayal. Just deception. And yet, his mind was filled only with her face. The only thing he wanted was to board a plane and fly to her as quickly as possible. But just as he was preparing to depart, his assistant rushed to him with urgent news. Trouble had erupted at the company. He was forced to delay his flight. 3 years passed. A man in a black suit climbed a small hill, carrying a bouquet of lavender in his hands. Before him stood a small gravestone. Etched into the stone were the words, "Heaven Grace." He knelt, placing the lavender gently before her grave. His voice was low, trembling. "I've come to see you again. Work's kept me so busy I couldn't visit sooner. Don't be angry with me, alright? I've missed you. Missed you so much it's driving me insane. Do you still miss me too?" His words broke, his body collapsing over her grave. Tears streamed from his eyes, drop by drop, falling heavier with each passing second. Suddenly, a soft presence appeared. A woman, gentle, radiant, wrapped her arms around him from behind. And in the very next moment, she vanished into the air. She walked closer to him, but still kept a certain distance. He stayed silent, saying nothing. She lifted her eyes to the sky. It was heavy and gloomy tonight, dark clouds blanketing everything, even hiding the moon. It was just like her heart at that moment, dark, suffocating, without a single ray of light. "Are you happy?" she asked quietly. "If I disappeared?" She gave a faint smile. She had heard this kind of answer too many times already, so often that it no longer hurt. "From the very beginning, you never loved me. So why did you marry me?" "For your family's fortune." He didn't hesitate, speaking his reason plainly. "Then give me 10 days. "For what?" He frowned in confusion. "In these 10 days, just stay by my side. Pretend to love me a little. Be gentle with me. After 10 days, I'll be gone forever." His eyes narrowed. "What are you planning? If you don't want to, you don't have to agree. But yes, after 10 days, I'll leave." "You're certain?" "Yes." She nodded firmly. All she wanted was to spend the last days of her life by his side. "Fine. Day 1 starts now." By coincidence, during those 10 days, the other woman had to return to her hometown in California to take care of her sick mother. "Can we travel somewhere?" she asked timidly. It was something she had always wanted to do but never had the chance. "Fine." His expression remained unreadable as he gave a small nod before heading upstairs. Her eyes followed him with quiet sadness. Day 2. The moment they stepped off the plane, she ran around like an excited child. Their destination was Colorado, the snow-covered mountains greeting them with icy winds. She stretched out her hands to catch the falling snowflakes, smiling so brightly it lit up her whole face, then turned to look at him. For a brief second, he was stunned, drawn into that pure smile. Her dark eyes shone with a clarity untouched by the world. It had been so long since he last saw her smile like that. Back at the hotel, they rented a double room. The moment she entered, she dove straight into her bed, curling up under the warm blanket with only her small head peeking out. The cold outside had drained her strength, all she wanted now was to sleep a little. But just as she was drifting off, he pulled her up.